I was reborn, sitting up with a jerk. I checked my phone October 7th, 2035. Unbelievable, I was back exactly 1 month before the zombie apocalypse. I grabbed the peach sparkling water from my desk and chugged it down, the sweet flavor bursting in my mouth. My mind cleared instantly. I have to live. I have to survive this. I stood up and looked out the window. The sky was an impossibly bright blue, and dry autumn leaves drifted through the air. Below, the dorm students walked past, laughing and joking around. Their voices drifted up to me. Everything seemed so normal, but only I knew that in a month, this peaceful scene would shatter. Countless zombies would overrun the campus, turning it into a living hell. I have to hoard supplies. I absolutely must stockpile. But before I stockpile, I need to get out of this school. Our university is just a run-of-the-mill college, and the dorms are ancient. The ground floor entrance is the only barrier keeping us safe. If the outbreak hits, that weak gate won't hold back a single thing. That door wouldn't stand a chance against a zombie horde. Hiding out in the dorm is a death sentence. But actually, the zombies aren't even the deadliest threat to me. The real danger is the people right inside my building. See, I work as a mukbang streamer. Before all this, I managed to get a single dorm room to myself. It was originally built for 6 people, so having it all to myself meant plenty of space. I kept all my stock piled high on the empty bunks. Because of my social media channel, most girls in my building knew me. They knew I was a small-time streamer, and they would often come straight to my room to buy snacks from me. That meant everyone saw exactly how much food I kept in there. And in my past life, when the apocalypse started, that was my undoing. I managed to hide safely in my room for a month. But as everyone else ran out of food, they naturally turned their desperate eyes to me. I wasn't stupid. I knew my room was a prime target, so I barricaded the door with beds and piled heavy boxes of food against it. That barrier bought me 2 more days, but I completely underestimated how wicked human nature gets when people are starving. A few girls teamed up with a group of guys from the male dorms. Armed with metal pipes and crowbars, they broke through my door. They cleared out every single box of food I had. But it still wasn't enough because too many people were starving. They started grabbing everything else, but their chaotic looting made so much noise that it drew the zombies right to our doorstep. To save their own skins, they turned on me. No matter how much I begged and cried, they didn't care. They shoved me out of the room, right into the jaws of the waiting monsters, and they kept all my food. Thinking about it now, my chest tightens with rage. I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. This time, I won't let anyone steal from me. I quickly opened my laptop and started searching rental listings. Staying in the dorms is out of the question. It is too big of a target and completely unsafe. My best option now is off campus. Zombies are slow and can't climb stairs, so a high-rise apartment is definitely the safest bet. After searching for hours, I finally found the perfect spot. It was on the 33rd floor of a modern building, spanning over 120 square meters. It had an open balcony and a small loft. Most importantly, it was located far out in the suburbs. While that would be incredibly inconvenient for normal daily life, it made for the perfect hiding spot during a zombie apocalypse. I didn't hesitate for a second. I booked the place immediately. The real estate agent was super quick, telling me we could view the apartment this afternoon and sign the contract right on the spot if I liked it. I agreed immediately. I only have 1 month left, and there is so much to prepare. Every second counts. Once the viewing was set, I grabbed my bag and headed out. On the way, I ran into Han Linlin, my bitter rival from the same department. The moment she saw me, her sneer was fully loaded. "Oh, look, Cheng Lan off to entertain clients again." Some people really have no shame when it comes to money. What an embarrassment to our college. I felt my fists clench at her nasty insults, but a second later I calmed myself down. Why care? The world is about to end anyway. Let her talk all the trash she wants. I didn't say a word. I just walked right past her and out the school gates, leaving her screaming behind me. I went to a small supermarket nearby and bought several large woven bags, 5 big suitcases, and to be safe, another 7 or 8 vacuum storage bags. Once I paid, I hurried back. Classes were in session, so the dorm hallways were practically empty. I hauled my new suitcases inside my room, locked the door, and drew the curtains tight. Making sure no one could peek in, I unzipped the suitcases and started packing. I started packing the food. First came the self-heating meals, instant hot pots, and canned fruits. I had several boxes in my room, each holding 8 packs. Even though I bought the largest suitcases available after filling up 3 of them, I still had 5 boxes left over. With no other choice, I began stuffing the rest into the woven bags. Once everything was packed, I stared at the mountain of luggage, feeling a headache coming on. This was just the instant meals. I still had tons of snacks to move. Packing all this up was going to be a massive chore. I sighed and slumped down for a quick break. Once I got my breath back, I called up the real estate agent. "Hey there, are you free right now? I'd love to go ahead and lease that apartment today." It sounded like he was chewing. After a quick gulp, he answered eagerly, Sure. "When can you make it over? I'm heading out right now," I replied. "Let's meet at the community gate in half an hour." He agreed happily and hung up. After hanging up, I booked a ride and dragged 2 of my heaviest suitcases out of the dorm. On my way out, I bumped into the dorm supervisor. "Lan, off to restock your shop again?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. I'm almost completely sold out, so I'm getting fresh inventory today." "Go on then." She smiled. "Stay safe out there." What a hard-working girl. I waved goodbye and walked out. Luckily, I've always used these big suitcases to fetch my stock. Otherwise, rolling 2 massive boxes through the lobby would have looked incredibly suspicious. The supervisor definitely would have inspected them. Fortunately, the school's pretty relaxed about students running mini businesses in the dorms. Besides snacks, people sell press-on nails and clothes. As long as there are no safety hazards, they let us do our thing. It is a great school in that aspect. When my ride arrived, I asked the driver to wait while I bolted back up to my room twice to grab the rest of the bags. Once everything was loaded, we finally set off. When we arrived, I paid the driver double his usual rate to help me carry the heavy boxes upstairs. About 10 minutes later, the agent stepped out of the elevator. He gasped when he saw my massive pile of luggage. "Whoa, kiddo, you brought your whole life with you already. Is there some kind of rush?" "Yes, brother. I have an urgent situation and need to move in today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in such a hurry." He nodded. "All right, let's make this quick. Take a look inside first, and if you like it, we can sign the lease right away." He unlocked the door. I did a quick walk-through and immediately said yes. Seeing how decisive I was, he laughed. "You look so gentle, but you make decisions faster than anyone I've met. Tell you what, I'll shave 300 win off your monthly rent. Let's get the contract signed." By the time I had the keys in my hand, it was already past 3 in the afternoon. Since I had no afternoon classes, I decided to give the place a deep clean. The apartment had perfect water and power-great decor and came fully furnished with a bed and sofa. It was ready to move in. After a quick wipe down, I headed up to check the attic. The loft was surprisingly spacious, about 60 to 70 square meters of empty white walls. After a quick glance, I rushed out to the balcony. Since it was the penthouse unit, the 33rd floor balcony was already enclosed with heavy-duty steel mesh. There was also a large water tank on the balcony. I was thrilled to see it. Once the apocalypse hits, the water supply will definitely cut out, so this tank will be perfect for collecting rainwater. After inspecting every corner, I headed back to campus highly satisfied. 29 days left until the end of the world. My schedule today was packed with classes, so I grabbed my books and headed to the lecture hall. I desperately wanted to skip, but explaining it to my advisor would be too difficult since I never miss classes. As soon as the final bell rang, I packed my things and left campus. Tomorrow is the weekend, so I can spend tonight getting the apartment in order. Besides the security measures, they are still way too weak. I need to upgrade them. By the time my cab arrived, it was past 8 p.m. I dragged 2 heavy suitcases into the residential area. The occupancy rate here was incredibly low, with only about 10 apartments showing lights. Most were on the lower floors. On the higher floors, only a single unit around the 20th floor was lit. I noted the location. After making a mental note of the layout, I dragged my bags inside. A full day of classes had left me completely exhausted. I heated up a self-heating rice meal from my stash and grabbed a cold soda from the fridge. Once full, I collapsed onto the sofa like a corpse. But the moment I closed my eyes, my mind raced with memories of getting torn apart by zombies. That terrifying experience is burned into my soul. Accepting my reality, I forced my eyes open and dragged myself up to unpack the suitcases. Today's haul was mostly snacks. I brought 20 bags of potato chips, rice crackers, and French fries, along with over 50 bags of Hawthorne rolls, sliced bread, and sandwich buns, plus a massive assortment of different brand sausages, corn dogs, and chicken franks. They completely stuffed both suitcases to the brim. This was just a tiny fraction of my inventory, brought over on a whim. I piled the snacks in the bedroom and got online to book a door and window contractor. To prevent zombies from breaching the apartment, the main entryway absolutely had to be reinforced. I ordered a bank-grade security door for the main entrance. Unless someone uses heavy military explosives, it is practically indestructible. I also plan to install a double-layered metal security door inside. With these 2 barriers in place, as long as I keep them locked, I am safe. No one can touch me. For extra safety, I also ordered a double-layered metal door for the attic. As for the windows, I chose one-way privacy glass. It blocks outside view perfectly and adds a great layer of security. After all, a girl living alone can never be too careful. Finally, I ordered a set of heavy light-blocking blackout curtains. Once the apocalypse starts, I will just draw the curtains shut and live peacefully in my own little world. After buying a few more useful survival gadgets online, I finally fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, my phone buzzed me awake. The installation crew had already arrived. I gave them my apartment number. When they came up and saw how young I was, they looked a bit confused. I quickly explained that I was just supervising the job for my boss. They stopped asking questions and got straight to work. Since I paid them a generous tip, they worked with extra care. By late afternoon, everything was fully installed. I inspected the work with great satisfaction, transferred the payment, and sent them on their way. The technician left. Right after he walked out, I quickly called the water delivery service and ordered 50 big jugs of water. I did not dare order too much, fearing it would draw attention. Within 30 minutes, the delivery guy arrived. I had him help me carry the water inside, locked the door, and went downstairs. My current stash was nowhere near enough. Since it was the weekend, I decided to grab my dorm supplies first, then slowly move them. I took a cab straight to a massive wholesale store downtown. I handed my shopping list straight to the manager. He was absolutely thrilled by such a massive order. Taking the list with a huge grin, he asked, curiously, "What is a young girl buying all this for corporate purchasing?" I nodded vaguely to keep things simple. I gave a vague answer, saying, "Yes, my manager ordered these for our company anniversary." He smiled, saying that sounded like a great company. After chatting with him briefly, I grabbed a shopping cart to look for other items, picking up 10 large power banks and 10 long extension cords. I also grabbed 10 large backup batteries and 3 diesel generators. When I reached the knife section, I bought 3 heavy bone cleavers, 5 kitchen knives, and 2 smaller fruit knives. Since I am not very strong, I needed some handy weapons just in case of emergency. After that, I headed to the cookware aisle and grabbed 2 iron pots, 2 rice cookers, and 3 portable butane stoves, along with plenty of fuel canisters. All of this easily filled up 2 giant shopping carts, but since it was still early, I decided to keep going. I grabbed 2 more carts and rushed to the daily essentials section. I grabbed 30 sets of toothbrushes and toothpaste, 10 towels, 10 bath towels, and 30 basins of various sizes. In the feminine hygiene aisle, I grabbed 30 packs each of day and night pads plus panty liners. I added 50 boxes of tampons and 50 boxes of overnight period underwear. Spotting some adhesive body warmers, I grabbed an entire box of hundreds of packets. I did not stop until my carts were completely full. Luckily, this was a wholesale club, so buying in bulk did not look suspicious. The manager told me everything on my list was ready. I had him gather all the items together and went to pay. Looking at the bill that totaled tens of thousands, I paid without blinking an eye. Finally, I left my home address and asked him to deliver everything as soon as possible. By the time I finished, it was already lunchtime. I grabbed a quick bite at a roadside diner and rushed to the wholesale clothing market. Since it was the weekend, the place was packed. I headed straight to the wholesale stalls, completely ignoring the styles, and bought 50 sets of tops and pants. I bought 50 sets of those, plus 20 sets of thermal underwear, normal underwear, and undershirts. Seeing some heavy military coats, I bought 5 of them, just in case the weather turned freezing. Thinking about the extreme cold, I visited a bedding shop and got 5 sets of thick quilts and heavy blankets. After wandering through the entire clothing market, I felt I had enough paid and left. Right then, it suddenly hit me that after the apocalypse begins, the weather will fluctuate wildly between hot and cold. I immediately rushed back to a supermarket to buy electric fans and cooling gel pads. The fans were all ultra-quiet models, so I would not have to worry about anyone hearing them. Speaking of noise, I remembered that my apartment was not soundproofed yet. I hurriedly contacted a contractor. By the time I finished all my shopping and got back home, it was almost 7 p.m. Running around all day left me incredibly thirsty. I downed a whole bottle of water and collapsed onto the sofa. Once I caught my breath, I splashed some water on my face to wake myself up and headed downstairs to start moving the boxes. For safety, I had set the delivery address to a few floors below mine. I had already checked and knew those floors were completely empty. The supermarket manager had packed everything into plain boxes, making it impossible to tell what was inside. Looking at the massive pile of boxes, I took a deep breath and began hauling them up. Thankfully, I used to do farm work and often carried heavy packages for my live streams so I could handle the physical labor. It took me 2 full hours of constant lifting to move everything. I piled them up right outside the attic door. I collapsed onto the floor, completely exhausted. This was only the first round of shopping, and I still had so much more to buy. It looked like I would be wearing myself out quite a few more times. 27 days before the disaster. Today is Sunday. I stayed inside and cleaned up. The storage shelves I ordered last night arrived. I unwrapped them, carried them up to the attic, and spent some time setting them up. Then I slowly organized my supplies onto them one by one. Thankfully, the shelves were heavy-duty, keeping everything perfectly stable and secure. Yesterday's haul was not too huge, filling up only about 1/4 of the attic. In the empty spaces, I stacked the big water jugs. Once everything was organized, the apartment looked completely normal again. I called the curtain installer to confirm our appointment. He arrived quickly, showing up in just 30 minutes. While installing the curtains, he noticed the unusual windows and smiled, saying, "This glass is incredibly solid." My heart skipped a beat, but I forced a smile and replied, "Right. Our boss has great taste and is very picky about quality." He agreed, saying everyone loves keeping up with trends. The installer was very talkative, chatting about this and that while finishing the job. Once he was done, he grinned and told me to check the blackout effect, guaranteeing it was top-notch. I checked and found no issues at all, so I paid him. Right before he left, I casually muttered, "The weather is getting so cold lately. You should probably stock up on some groceries at home. Going out to buy things in this weather is going to be a real pain." He agreed, saying it felt like winter, even though it was only October, and promised to tell his wife to stock up. I smiled, nodded, and saw him out. I am the only one who knows about the impending disaster. I want to save more people, but human nature is unpredictable. I do not dare make any public announcements, so I can only drop hints to whoever I cross paths with. Whether they listen is entirely up to them. I have good intentions, but I am no saint. I have to look out for myself first. That evening, I headed back to my dorm. At 8 p.m., I started my live stream on time. Just like usual, trolls immediately flooded the chat with nasty insults. I knew it was Han Linlin and her friends. She could not stand me, so she showed up to ruin my stream every single time. Whenever her account got banned, she would just make a new one and keep spamming. She had been trolling me for as long as I had been streaming. If I did not know any better, I would think she was my biggest fan. Fortunately, the moderators banned her within 2 minutes. I greeted my viewers and started my mukbang. As a small streamer, I had less than 100,000 followers. I ate slowly, chatting with the viewers. The stream went really well, bringing in over 30,000 in sales, mostly bought by my loyal fans. Before wrapping up, I reminded everyone to stock up on supplies. My fans teased me, calling me a hoarding fanatic, but I just laughed it off. After ending the stream, I cleaned up my room and started packing my suitcase. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a neighbor. Xiaonian pushed her way into my room the second she saw me. "Lanlin, I need to buy some of your instant rice noodles," she said. "Give me 3 boxes quick. Watching your stream made me so hungry." I smiled helplessly and handed them to her. She paid me immediately. She rushed back to her room, but soon more neighbors came over to buy things. I set my suitcase aside and waited until I sold everything before finally closing the door. Over the next few days, I made several trips using my suitcase, and my dorm stock began to shrink. With only half a month left before the end, a breaking news alert popped up on social media. A person in some town supposedly had rabies attack their own dog and bit its neck clean off, killing it instantly. The comments were all over the place, with most advising people to get vaccinated. Others said the man had just lost his mind, while some made jokes, but my heart tightened as I read it. That was not rabies at all. He was clearly infected with the zombie virus. The way he bit that dog was identical to how zombies attack humans. It had already begun. A surge of urgency hit me, and I accelerated my hoarding. I made several more trips to the supermarket, stocking up on rice, flour, dried goods, canned food, and cured meats. I bought 50 of every single non-perishable item I could find. This would easily last a single person like me for ages. Once the goods arrived, I hired someone to install solar panels on the roof, since electricity is absolutely essential. On top of that, I ordered various vegetable seeds, potting soil, and growing medium. I even got a fertilizer conversion unit. A week before the end, I finally finished moving my dorm supplies. I kept the empty cardboard boxes and stacked them back up exactly as they were filling my bed. Only 1 box of rice noodles was left. I did not plan on taking it with me, so I carried the box next door. Xiaonian happened to be in. I handed it to her and said, "These noodles are nearing their expiration date, and I cannot finish them all. You can have them." She beamed with joy, but hesitated, saying it was too much. She told me to keep them for myself, but after some convincing, she finally accepted. Before I left, she handed me a bag of fruit as a thank you gift. Looking at her warm smile, I felt a pang of guilt and tried to offer some quiet advice. I told her it was going to freeze in a couple of days, so she should stock up on some food in her dorm. She laughed and said she already did, adding that, since it was so cold, she preferred staying indoors anyway. Hearing that made me feel a bit relieved. After leaving her room, I walked straight out of the building. I suddenly realized what I had forgotten: security cameras. I had already installed them at my apartment, but not in my dorm. I did not want to warn Han Linlin directly, knowing they would act just like in my past life. Human nature is unpredictable. Once the disaster hits and they run out of food, they will definitely come looking for me. I want to see the look on their faces when they find my empty dorm. I immediately ordered battery-powered pinhole cameras to install. These cameras are tiny, easy to hide, and can even record audio, making them perfect for spying on them. The package arrived quickly that very afternoon. I connected them to my phone, configured the settings, and went ahead to find the perfect spots to mount them. I bought 3 in total. I placed one on the balcony facing the door, one right by the entrance, and another in the corner. They had high-resolution lenses and enough battery life to easily hold out until the day Han Linlin showed up, 2 days before the end. It happened to be the weekend. I packed up my remaining personal belongings, quietly locked the door, and left. On the way back, I stopped by my favorite restaurant for takeout and bought some fresh fruits and vegetables at a grocery store, carrying 2 heavy bags home under the cover of night. I put the fresh produce in the fridge and went up to the attic to take inventory of my supplies. After a month of hoarding, the small space was packed to the brim. Everything was neatly organized by category, including water, snacks, dried foods, cans, and instant meals. I pulled out my notebook to carefully log every item. 50 bags of vacuum-sealed rice, 10 kilograms each. 20 large bags of flour, 25 kilograms each. 50 jugs of 5-liter cooking oil, and multiple 30 egg trays. I stocked up on 110-kilogram bags of potatoes, 10 bags of pumpkins, and 10 bags of sweet potatoes. I also got winter melons, radishes, lotus roots, other long-lasting veggies, and tons of bottled water. I got 200 bottles of Coke, Sprite, and sparkling water, plus 10 boxes of other drink brands. Next are self-heating meals, 50 boxes of each type of rice, and plenty of ham sausages. I also stored 10 boxes each of Spam-cured pork and sausages, plus at least 10 boxes of chips and snacks. Since my loft has high ceilings and huge shelves, they took up most of the space, leaving room for different daily necessities. I got 20 boxes of tissues and toilet paper. Once I wrote everything down in my inventory book, a wave of relief washed over me. But that was not all. I put other supplies in different rooms. Except for my bedroom, every corner was packed. Checking my inventory made me hungry, so I heated up a self-heating hot pot and browsed my phone. Since it was the weekend, most people were out having fun while I scrolled through videos. Suddenly, a clip about a suspected zombie caught my eye. A woman was walking when a man rushed her from behind, tackled her, and bit her neck. She struggled wildly, but within moments, she went completely still as blood pooled around her. It happened so fast that bystanders stood frozen. Once they realized, a few strong men rushed over to pull him off. The attacker bared his teeth, his mouth covered in blood. People screamed to call the police while others fled in terror. At the very end, the woman on the ground twitched and the clip abruptly cut off. I checked the comments, and the top one joked, "Whoa, a real zombie." The replies were full of laughing emojis. Clearly nobody took it seriously. But I knew the truth. The zombie apocalypse was starting. Instantly losing my appetite, I checked the tagged location in the video. It was City C. That is just over 100 kilometers away. My heart tightened. The outbreak was happening earlier than in my past life. Back then, the massive wave hit on Sunday afternoon. I remember because I was returning to my dorm after restocking. The apocalypse started right after I got back. But today is only Saturday, and they are already here. No, they were always here. They are just spreading faster now. I glanced at my phone. It was 8 p.m. Without wasting another second, I grabbed some supplies and stepped out. I took the fire escape down to the 28th floor. I knew only 3 families lived between here and 33, so I locked the 28th floor fire door. Just to be safe, I added heavy-duty door stoppers. Then I locked all the fire doors up to 33. Back inside, I double-locked my own security doors and finally breathed. Tomorrow, the outbreak would go fully global. For my survival, I had to block the stairs. Having lived through this before I knew human nature is far more terrifying than any monster. I turned off all my house lights, lit a tiny desk lamp, and stayed quiet. With all my Supplies, I could not risk anyone knowing I was here. I fell asleep wearing headphones. On November 7th, 2035, I woke up shivering. I had gone to bed early and kept the heater off to stay hidden, so it was freezing inside. Shivering, I pulled another heavy blanket from under the bed and threw on my thickest pajamas. I crept into the living room. I had already drawn the blackout curtains, so I used my phone's screen to navigate into the window. It was 10 a.m. Peeking through a crack in the curtains, I saw a crowd downstairs. Since it was the weekend, families were strolling around and kids were playing on their scooters in the courtyard. Everything looked completely normal. The virus had not reached our neighborhood yet. Feeling a bit relieved, I decided to make some breakfast. Avoiding the stove to keep a low profile, I prepped a self-heating spicy beef rice meal. The rich aroma filled the air. I needed to eat well before chaos broke out. Realizing I might not enjoy hot meals like this for long, I also opened a box of instant braised pork. It heated up in minutes, releasing an incredibly mouth-watering scent. How could something smell this good? While drooling over my food, my hands instinctively opened my chat apps. I saw a flood of unread messages waiting for me, mostly from people wanting to buy supplies. I ignored them, but then saw a text from my friend, Xiao Nian. She wrote, "Lan Lan, tell me you are safe inside. Do not go out to restock. Have you heard about the zombies? Is this really the end of the world? Just stay in your room." Her care warmed my heart. I sent back a quick smiley face, tossed my phone onto the sofa, and focused on my hot meal. The spicy beef was incredibly flavorful, especially with the rich gravy mixed into the rice. Combined with a tender piece of braised pork, it tasted like heaven. I quickly cleaned up the kitchen, and sat on the couch to check social media. Sure enough, the top trending topic was zombies, spotted several infected, followed by 3 massive exclamation points. It showed just how shocked everyone was. I clicked on the top video, and the level of violence was absolutely brutal. The caption read, "The end times are here," with thousands of terrified comments below. The panic was almost palpable. Feeling my chest tighten, I closed the app. I took a deep breath. It was finally starting. 2 hours later, the zombies officially reached my neighborhood. I was watching through my high-powered binoculars. As the terrifying news spread, the courtyard emptied out completely. But around 2 p.m., someone still dared to walk outside. I adjusted my focus. I saw a young woman in her 20s, heading toward the main gates. She had her headphones on, bobbing her head to the music, totally oblivious to the news. As she approached the exit, a man staggered toward her, wearing tattered, blood-soaked clothes. His limbs were twisting at unnatural angles, likely a fresh infection. The woman gasped and recoiled, taking 2 steps back to bypass him. But in that split second, the crazed man lunged forward, tackling her to the pavement and sinking his teeth into her. I could not hear her screams from this distance, but her desperate thrashing was painfully clear. Within minutes, she went limp. Satisfied, he stood, hobbling away in a bizarre posture. About 5 minutes later, the fallen woman twitched. Her head snapped up, exposing sharp, bloody teeth. Sniffing the air like a predator, she scrambled to her feet and lurched out of the gates. The process took less than 15 minutes. Even though I had lived through this once, before watching it unfold still chilled me to the bone. I swallowed hard and kept watch. Even though social media was blowing up, not everyone was checking their phones. Unsuspecting residents kept walking out of the nearest building, only to be immediately ambushed. In under 30 minutes, 8 more people were attacked. Counting the first girl, there were now at least 10 zombies roaming the compound. Panic surged through me. I threw on thick clothes and slipped out into the silent hallway. My building has 2 apartments per floor, and I was entirely alone on the 33rd floor. I crept down the stairs to the 28th floor. The quiet was eerie. I checked the fire door again, ensuring the chains and stoppers were locked tight. After verifying the security cameras were active, I hurried back inside. Armed with a flashlight, I grabbed the heavy meat cleaver and placed 2 kitchen knives by the entryway. I also prepared my pepper spray. Feeling slightly safer, I caught my breath. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, making me jump. My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked down and saw it was my former rental agent. Why on earth was he calling me now? Did he know I was staying here, panicking? I hesitated before finally tapping answer. "Are you at the apartment?" His panicked voice pleaded. "Have you seen the news? If you are not here yet, stay away. This area is compromised." I bit my lip and lied. "No, I am still at school." He sighed. "Good, stay there and do not step outside. It is pure chaos. Take care of yourself." He hung up immediately. My knees buckled with relief, and I collapsed onto the sofa. That was when I noticed group chat notifications. The building management was conducting a head count, advising everyone to stay indoors and report their status. The agent must have called because I had not responded to the text. He was genuinely being a good person, but in Asher, this meant I had to be incredibly cautious. I decided to stop using tap water immediately. I would rely entirely on my stockpiled water for drinking and sanitation and use a portable gas stove instead of the main line. I had to stay hidden and play it safe. I survived the first day in perfect silence. By day 3, my phone was ringing off the hook, with people begging to buy food. I did not reply to anyone. I refused to respond. The virus hit out of nowhere, and since we were mostly students, no one had stockpiles beyond a few snacks. With classes canceled, everyone was trapped in their dorms and their food supply dwindled at an alarming rate. Too terrified to visit the cafeteria, they instantly remembered my massive snack stash. In my past life, they begged me to sell to them. When I refused, their pleas quickly turned to outright anger. They stood outside hurling vile insults at me, but I never budged. By day 10, they tried to break my door down. Fortunately, I had reinforced the heavy frame beforehand, so they could not bust it open. No matter how desperate they were, they could not break through reinforced steel. Still, they kept pounding on my door daily before leaving in a rage. To prevent any accidents, I wedged my bed and heavy crates against it. Later on, Han Linlin showed up. At first, he and some guys kicked at the door, but when that failed, he started screaming curses. Before long, he bolted because zombies had breached the dorm. They ended up hiding for 7 or 8 days. Once the horde thinned out, they returned to break down my door. This time, he brought some guys from the boys' dorm. They used iron bars and axes, taking a whole day to smash it open. That was when they forced their way in. They stole all my supplies and threw me to the zombies. That is why this time I didn't save a single soul. People might seem nice, normally, but in a survival crisis, anything goes. To stay alive, the ugliest side of humanity takes over. Sure enough, by day 6 of the apocalypse, the help requests on my phone turned into vicious insults. Every word was venom. It was almost funny. I just blocked them all. Out of sight, out of mind. By day 10, I got a text. It read, "Lanlin, lock your dorm door and barricade it. Han Lingling is rallying people in our class group to smash your door. Stay safe. This is all I can do." I read it in silence, then opened the group chat. Once the disaster hit, I muted our class group chat. But now it is flooded with dozens of classmates slamming me. Han Lingling texted, "Cheng Lan, open your door and share your food. We are all classmates, aren't we supposed to help each other? Yeah, you have so much food. Share it around, you cannot eat it all anyway." It was Han Lingling and her lackeys. Usually they just insulted me. Now they have the nerve to call us classmates. The absolute nerve. Below those texts. Other classmates were offering cash. "Cheng Lan, I will pay. Double sell me something. I am in room 505. I need instant noodles. Here is $100. Another wrote, "I will pay 200 for water. Sister Lan, I need bread. I am not picky. I will take whatever you have. Please, I have not eaten in 2 days. The screen was filled with desperate pleas. I kept scrolling down to yesterday's text. Han Lingling, again. "Cheng Lan, stop playing dead. I know you are in your room. We knocked, and you kinda ignored us. You are so heartless. Do you want us to starve, Cheng Lan? If you sell me food, I will do whatever you want. Anything." I thought to myself, how about you go die? Would you do that? I scoffed silently, my finger scrolling through the text. It wasn't until I saw today's messages. Han Lingling wrote, "Cheng Lan, you've got some nerve, ignoring my calls and texts. Don't blame me now." Then she started egging everyone on to smash my door down, promising them everything inside. At first, no one agreed to the plan, but slowly a couple of people chimed in and they worked out a strategy. Han Linlin and some girls would try to break my door first. If they couldn't, the guys would take over. About 10 of them agreed. I looked at their profile pictures. They were the exact same people who broke my door down in my past life. Given a second chance at life, they still chose the exact same path. Go ahead and try. I have a little surprise waiting for you all. I pulled up the camera feed from right outside my dorm door onto my computer. Snacking on sunflower seeds, I sat back to watch. By afternoon, a crowd started gathering. Sure enough, it was Han Linlin and her crew, clutching wooden table legs. They repeatedly slammed my door, making a massive racket. Neighbors peeked out to see what was happening. After 5 minutes of pounding, the door did not budge at all. I heard Han Linlin curse, complaining about how sturdy I had made the door. Another girl asked if I was even inside since there was no reaction. Han Linlin snapped back, saying she had been watching me, and since I never left to get supplies, I was definitely hiding. She called me a coward hoarding food and eating alone. Hearing that made me stop mid-bite. Han Linlin was actually spying on me. Thank goodness I managed to slip past everyone when I slipped out earlier, or I would have been trapped. She is relentless. We have no history, yet she constantly targets me. I could not understand. I had never even interacted with her, so how did I offend her? It was baffling. While I was still thinking, a sudden piercing scream echoed from the video feed. A zombie had appeared. Someone yelled that a zombie was inside. Han Linlin and her crew threw down their wooden legs and scrambled away, slamming doors echoing down the hall. A few minutes later, a blood-soaked figure slowly shuffled into the frame, letting out a low, guttural growl. It was indeed a zombie, a female one. She sniffed around my door and slapped it. When it did not budge, she wandered off. I breathed a sigh of relief. The scent I left must have kicked in. That smell is utterly irresistible to them. My plan worked. For the next few days, Han Linlin stayed away, and my monitor only showed occasional wandering zombies. But then that familiar pounding returned. Someone must have successfully lured the zombies out of our dormitory building, leaving my door wide open for another attack. On screen, Han Linlin stood with several guys armed with iron rods and axes hacking away at my entrance. The axes were incredibly sharp, peeling back the metal plating of my door with every heavy swing. One of them cheered that it was actually working. Faster keep smashing. Once it's open, we'll have food. They grew excited, swinging their axes with extra force as loud banging echoed down the hallway. Watching them through the camera, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Are you crazy? Aren't you afraid zombies will hear us? Hurry up, the lookouts are losing ground. Let me do it if you can't. I strained my ears and faintly heard distant zombie growls. So they had guards. Quite thorough. But even if they open it, they get inside, they're in for a massive disappointment. There is absolutely no food in my room, only a death trap. Click. I heard the lock break. It's open. It's open. They squealed, and then the door was kicked wide open. What's that smell? It stinks like a rotting corpse. Who cares? Find food first, start grabbing things. I watched the crowd pack into my room. Excitement surged inside me as I switched on the camera, facing the door. Inside the dorm, 7 or 8 people crammed in. Spotting the massive pile of boxes on the beds, they cheered and lunged. The next second, I got exactly what I wanted, their shocked cries. Empty. Why are they empty? What the hell, Cheng Lan? These are all empty. And they're all empty. Someone swept the boxes off the bed only to find them completely hollow. Refusing to believe it, another guy crawled under the bed to search, but found nothing. Enraged, he smashed his metal pipe against the bed frame, the loud clanging echoing through the room. What now? There's no food. We're finished. They finally realized there was nothing to eat. Han Linlin, refusing to believe it, marched over to my bed. She ripped the blanket back, only to be greeted by a mattress, smothered in raw chicken innards. Several kilograms of bloody organs were piled right there. Han Linlin screamed, "Shoot, cover it up!" Someone panicked, dragging the blanket back over the bloody mess, but it was too late. On my hallway camera feed, screams began to echo. The people at the door scrambled in absolute panic. Zombies. They're coming up. Lock the door. They slammed it shut, but the lock was already destroyed. It wouldn't close all the way, leaving a gap. Those nearest to the door are panicked. The door won't shut. Oh my God. A zombie's hand is through. Help me push. I can't hold it. 2 or 3 people threw their weight against the wood, while the rest cowed on the balcony, refusing to help. The 3 pushing saw the others' cowardice, absolute panic filling their eyes. I don't want to die. Help us, help. It's biting me. Finally, the guy on the edge was bitten. He tried to shake the monster off, but having tasted fresh blood, the crazed zombie wouldn't let go. Within seconds, the guy collapsed. Piercing screams echoed through my dorm room. A few minutes later, the other 2 couldn't hold out either, collapsing into a growing pool of blood near the shattered door. Bang, the ruined door was completely thrown open by the swarming horde. Through the feed, I watched their eyes turn blood red with excitement. The smell of raw chicken blood had driven them wild. Several zombies lunged madly onto my bed, clawing, grabbing the chicken innards and stuffing them into their mouths. The scene was too stomach-turning, so I looked away. 10 minutes later, I checked again. The horde had finished eating and finally spotted the cowards hiding on my balcony. I heard their terrified weeping. Hearing their desperate sobbing, I couldn't help but shake my head. They were dead meat. I had remodeled that balcony to store supplies and completely removed the sliding glass door. Han Linlin and the others hiding out there had absolutely no protection, because there was no cover at all. Sure enough, 5 or 6 minutes later, I heard their agonizing screams. Since the camera faced away from the balcony, I couldn't see the carnage, but the sounds told me everything. I clenched my fists and stared at the screen. After a long, heavy silence, the screen flickered with movement. First, the original zombies stumbled out of the balcony. Then one of the guys who had been hiding out there stumbled into view. His neck and shoulder were dripping blood. Abide as he kept his head low, sniffing around and trailing after the horde. 1, 2, 3. And finally, I saw Han Linlin. Her clothes were drenched in blood, her body swaying. Just like the others, she sniffed the air and lowered her head. Suddenly, she snapped her head up, staring straight into my pinhole camera. Making unexpected eye contact with those blood-red eyes terrified me. Crap. I gasped, my heart hammering against my ribs as I stared back. Fortunately, she did nothing else. After looking around, she slowly shuffled out. Soon, distant groans echoed down the hallway and my room fell silent. I let out a massive sigh of relief. Finally, they're dead. This time I survived. My eyes welled up. With trembling hands, I grabbed an icy soda from the fridge. The cold liquid slid down my throat, bringing pure relief. All the dread since my rebirth vanished instantly. Halfway through the bottle, I finally heard my phone ringing. Looking closer, it was Xiangning. I ignored it, but the phone rang persistently, finally going silent after 3 tries. Then a text notification chimed. Lanlin, are you in your dorm? Zombies are heading your way. Are you okay? Lingling and the others seemed to have been bitten, Lanlin. I stared at it for a long time before switching off my phone. Xiaonian never messaged again. That night, the class chat exploded. Someone shared a video. Holy crap, is that Hazy and his crew? Wait, even she became a zombie. Is that Han Lingling? Oh my god, he turned into one too. Didn't they go to Cheng Lan's place for food? How did they turn? Where is Cheng Lan? Why aren't they looking for her? Did they find food? The chat went silent. Probably not. They are zombies now. We are starving. When is rescue coming? I have rationed 1 pack of instant noodles for a week. If they do not show up soon, I will die. Since we still have power and water, it cannot be that bad. Rescue must be close hanging there. Soon the chat flooded with prayers. I stopped reading and quietly left. Honestly, I had no idea when help would arrive. It has been a month since the apocalypse started. At first, TV hosts were telling everyone to stay calm and wait for help. Eventually, the broadcast went silent. I had no idea what was happening outside, but I knew people had to be working silently to save the world. I could not do much, so I stayed put to avoid causing trouble. I went back to acting like a couch potato until I heard noise on the 28th floor. Right after eating, I was about to rest when I noticed activity on the 28th floor camera. Since it was just a pinhole camera, I had hidden it up high, just enough to catch any movement. For a month, the feed had been empty. But now, some figures appeared. Due to the angle, I could only see dark shadows, not faces. I plugged in my headphones and listened closely. It sounded like a few men. Is anyone still living upstairs? I do not know. Go see. I think we searched everywhere. Definitely nobody. Too few people live in this building. Let's check. If there is, great. If not, no loss. You are right, boss. Let's go up. Hearing this, I immediately tensed up. They were coming up. I had put a door blocker on the 28th floor. They could not open it, so they would know someone was here and search up. What should I do? I panicked. Won't open. Damn locked. I heard heavy thuds of the door rattling on the monitor, then 2 violent kicks. With the chains and blocker, the door stayed shut. What the hell, it is blocked. There is definitely stuff upstairs. Why else would it be locked? Let's go grab our tools. I have been starving for days' time to get food. I heard another kick to the fire exit door, then their cursing faded away. Once it was dead quiet, I rushed to the window to look down. It was almost evening, and the dim light made it hard to see. Just 2 or 3 days after the outbreak, barely anyone dared to go outside. Everyone knew how lethal the zombies were, and nobody wanted to die. But now a month had passed. The promised rescue never came, and most homes were completely out of food. With more zombies and the freezing cold, staying inside meant starving, so some started taking risks. I saw a man fully geared up step outside, but before he could even walk a few paces, a zombie jumped him from the shadows. After that, the compound went quiet. But 2 days later, another person tried. This time he succeeded bringing back supplies. Then a few more succeeded, but that was a week ago. Another week went by, and many were likely starving. Those men from earlier were probably desperate, but instead of going outside, they decided to hunt inside the building to try their luck. From their talk, it was clear they were thugs. They posed a threat to me. I had to be careful. I rechecked every door and window, and once I was sure it was safe, I headed to the attic. After a month, the supplies in my attic were barely touched. I hid inside, ate some sesame noodles, checked my stash, and went to my bedroom satisfied. From that day on, my movements were restricted to the bedroom and the attic. I ate in the attic and stayed in my bedroom. I stopped showering, only wiping myself down. Luckily, the weather was cold enough that I did not smell. As for my daily waste, I chose to use cat litter. Anyway, I tried to stay as invisible as possible. The guys from that day did not come back up for days. Maybe they found food, or maybe something happened to them. Cozy in my room whenever I was bored. I would watch the street below, but on this day, something terrifying happened. I was peering through a crack in the curtains as usual when a drone suddenly appeared right outside. I jumped in shock, but the drone flew even closer, pressing right against the glass. It hovered up and down, revealing a note. I looked closely, gasped, and fell backward on the floor. I have been watching you for a long time. Those words made my hair stand on end. Someone was watching. Me. Someone knew I was here. A shiver ran down my spine. Who was this? How long had they watched friend or foe? I had no idea. In the midst of my thoughts, I heard window tapping. Gathering courage, I stepped forward. It was the same drone, but with a new note. Can I add your WeChat? I am a good guy. No way. That made me even more terrified. Who can be trusted these days? I gritted my teeth, pulled the curtain shut, and ignored it. The drone tapped on the glass again, but I ignored it and retreated to the attic. I sat there restless. Who was he? He said he had watched me for a long time. Did he spot me after the outbreak or when I moved in? I suddenly realized the windows were one-way glass, meaning he must have seen me after I moved in. Maybe he even watched me stocking up on supplies. The thought of that sent a wave of pure panic through me. First, they find the locked door. Now someone knows about my stash. I am completely surrounded. What should I do? After pacing the attic, I decided to sit tight. As long as I do not leave, they cannot easily reach or see me. 3 days later, those men returned. I heard them talking, and then the sound of a saw. It seemed they wanted to saw the door open. Afraid of attracting zombies, they worked quietly, cutting away, bit by bit. They worked all morning, but the door did not open. I heard someone curse, "Damn it, if I find out who did this, I will kill them. Why is this door so solid? There is definitely good stuff inside. Once I open it, it is all mine." Their efforts turned violent, the loud banging echoing down the hallway. Hearing the metal chains rattling, I knew they were close, but I was not too panicked. I had installed blockers and chains from the 28th to the 33rd floors. I bound the 33rd floor with extra chains. Even if they got past, it would take them 5 or 6 days. In a week, anything could happen. They returned after noon, but only by 6 or 7 in the evening did the door break. A massive crash echoed through the hallway. The camera behind the door shook and went black. Luckily, the audio worked. They have another blocker. When I catch this bastard, I am going to ruin him. Footsteps rushed up the stairs. Unsurprisingly, I heard them cursing again. "Damn it, another lock, boss. They are still upstairs. Let's come back tomorrow. I will drag them out." Their voices faded as they went down. At 10 o'clock at night, I grabbed my chains and slipped out, locking the fire exit. Initially, it was for safety, a shield to protect myself. I never expected someone to find it so quickly. One chain was no longer safe. Armed with a flashlight, I made my way to the 29th floor. By then, it was late at night, the stairwell dead silent. I carefully slowed my steps. Reaching the door, I gently pulled out a chain and wound it around the handle. I quickly secured one, but as I went to add another, a low voice spoke from behind the door. "Boss, can you add a few more chains?" The muffled voice drifted through the wood. I screamed in my head. Someone was behind the door. When did they get here? How did they know I was coming? With no time to think, I listened as he continued. "Boss, do you have enough chains? You need at least 10. Those guys are ruthless killers downstairs. They only recently came out and have already murdered several families just to steal their food. They will do absolutely anything. I know you are a good person, boss. Please make this door secure. Once we get out of this, I will buy you dinner." He went silent, shaken to my core. My hands trembled as I grabbed the remaining chains to bind them tight. I even ran back upstairs to fetch thicker ones. Thank goodness I had bought plenty of chains for security, otherwise I would be helpless now. I wrapped several more around until the handle was completely covered. The person behind the door remained. After soft footsteps, he whispered, "Thank you, boss. Stay safe." I nodded silently. We will both be safe. Once the 29th floor was secured, I headed up to the 30th floor, using the same method to reinforce each door floor by floor. By the time I slipped back home, it was past midnight. I stumbled into my bedroom, collapsing onto the bed, gasping. With the doors reinforced, it would not be easy for them. I was too exhausted to move and fell fast asleep. The next day, those men returned. They reached the 28th floor, banging on 2 apartment doors. When they did not open, they furiously tried to force them. Suddenly, several zombies appeared, sending the men fleeing in terror. The zombies banged on the 28th floor doors but failed to enter, eventually wandering off. I only knew because someone posted in our building group. Turns out those thugs were outsiders, in their own block. After robbing their neighbors, they targeted our building's first-floor residents. A few kind families thought giving them food would buy safety. Instead, those monsters murdered every single one of them. This triggered absolute fury among the building's residents. They decided to fight back, and their weapon was the zombies. Knowing the creatures are highly sensitive to smell, several residents on the upper floors worked together while the gang was upstairs using fresh blood to lure them in. Hearing the thugs banging on the doors, the zombies were naturally drawn to the noise. This saved the residents on the 28th floor. But this trick won't work forever. Now that it happened once, the gang will be alert, and next time won't be so easy. Obviously, the group chat was already on the same page. Everyone started debating. Someone suggested, if they want supplies, fine, but we need a trick to make them grab the stuff and never dare to return. That sounded like a solid plan. But we need actual supplies first. Let's just pool our resources. Anyone who made it this far must have some food left. Let's all chip in a little. Let's see what Cheng says. Soon the group chat was buzzing with non-stop ideas. I watched the active chat and felt a wave of relief. Turns out I wasn't the only hoarder around here. Good to know. That afternoon, before those thugs showed up, everyone put the plan into action. I stayed completely silent, hiding in my bedroom to watch. I cracked my window open just enough to hear the street below. Then I set up my binoculars. A pickup truck was parked downstairs with a few boxes piled in the back, the supplies we'd pooled. About 20 minutes later, the gang finally showed up. I watched one of them curiously walk up and peek into the truck. A smirk spread across his face, and the rest gathered around. I watched them tear open the boxes, finally seeing what was inside. It was actual meat, freshly braised pork, and chicken drumsticks. The smell must have been incredible because one guy immediately shoved a piece right into his mouth. The others lost it and started grabbing for themselves. Just as a fistfight was about to break out, someone stepped in to stop them. They yelled and argued, but I could tell the peacemaker was their leader. He barked a few words, and the 2 greedy guys dropped the meat and hung their heads. The boss tossed the meat aside and opened the other boxes. Inside was rice flour and bottled water. Even the leader went quiet, lost in thought. Just then, something buzzed through the air. I squinted to get a better look. It was a drone carrying a dripping bag of blood, hovering right over the center of the pickup truck. Suddenly, it released the payload. The blood-soaked bag plummeted, hitting the truck bed with a sickening splat. The thugs whipped their heads up, searching for the source, but the drone was already long gone. Right then, a deafening song blasted from the truck bed. The volume was insane. I could hear it clearly from my bedroom. As I stood there confused, several zombies stumbled out from our building's lobby, heading straight for the terrified men. They tried to run, but more zombies emerged from another alley. Suddenly, they were facing 7 or 8 of them. The men swung their iron pipes wildly, but the monsters felt no pain. They just kept closing in. Soon a scream cut through the air as one guy got bitten. The rest scattered in sheer panic, but it was already too late. Dozens of zombies swarmed from every corner, trapping them completely. Even with weapons, they were simply outnumbered. After a brutal half-hour struggle, the men were dragged away into the herd. Silence returned to the complex, but I could feel a shift in the air. By month 3 of the apocalypse, the zombies were thinning out. After that day, everyone finally realized we weren't helpless. Banding together to deal with those thugs proved that unity actually worked. That very afternoon, a group of 4 neighbors hunted down a stray zombie and wiped it out. Buzzing with excitement, they shared their combat tips in our group chat. After months of terror, everyone finally found an outlet. Neighbors started forming hunting parties, racking up impressive kills. It was a massive boost to our morale. Our group chat turned into a tactical command center. Spotters reported zombie locations in numbers, while others planned the strikes, debating whether to lure them away with noise or raw blood. Before long, our neighborhood was nearly cleared out. By month 4, the zombies were completely gone. I kept my window open, listening to the triumphant cheers of my neighbors. We had been cooped up for so long. 2 weeks later, help finally arrived. It was a Monday morning when the first helicopter began circling overhead. After a few laps, they dropped crates of supplies and broadcasted a message. "Attention residents, rescue operations are underway. Please do not panic and wait for assistance. We will continue dropping food and water. The government will not abandon a single citizen." The chopper broadcasted for a while before buzzing off. Watching it fade to a speck, my eyes welled up with tears. Fortunately, our utilities were restored after just 2 weeks and never cut out again. Even without cell service, I knew the government was fighting for us. It was only a matter of time. The helicopters kept returning with supplies and sprayed heavy-duty disinfectant. A month later, the speaker blared again. "Attention residents, this sector is now zombie-free. Disinfection is complete. You are clear to go outside." Once the chopper left the courtyard downstairs. Slowly stirred to life. First, 2 brave guys crept out, looked around, and suddenly roared, "They're gone! The monsters are actually gone!" They went sprinting through the courtyard. Windows slammed open, and people began pouring outside. I watched from above as people laughed, hugged, and broke down in tears. We had been cooped up for far too long. By month 8, spring had slipped away. We still stayed inside the gates, but the older folks transformed the lawns into vegetable patches, planting seasonal crops. The weather was perfect, and within 2 weeks, lush green sprouts carpeted the ground. It was beautiful. Soon everyone was eating fresh, homegrown produce. On my end, I was enjoying my own balcony garden. My planter boxes were overflowing, giving me fresh greens daily. A full year into the apocalypse, right before National Day, the nightly news broadcasted, for the first time in a year, reporting on our nation's recovery and rebuilding. Countless lives had been lost, and society had completely collapsed, but we persevered. On October 1st, a brand new red flag rose over the central square. It felt like rebirth. It felt like hope. That evening, I treated myself to a feast and made hot pot. I'd hoarded so much vacuum-sealed food. After a year, my attic stash was mostly cleared out, but I still had some cured pork and sausages left to boil, along with my fresh balcony greens. It wasn't restaurant quality, but it was pure bliss. Full and content, I sat by the window, daydreaming. It had been a year. Surely the end was near. Another 3 months passed and near. The new year. The broadcast finally announced the global elimination of the very last zombie. The nightmare was over. I let out a long sigh of relief. Finally. Downstairs, the celebrations were already roaring. I couldn't stay inside a second longer, and went down. It was freezing, but the sunlight felt amazing on my skin. I hadn't felt this free in forever. I barely recognized anyone, but I stood in the square, soaking in their joy. Then a middle-aged man approached and smiled. "Hey, kiddo, you're the one who left those supplies in the elevator, aren't you?" Before I could play dumb, he chuckled. "I know everyone in this building. You're the only ghost. Impressive courage for someone so young." I didn't deny it, I just smiled. He nodded warmly and strolled off. A moment later, a young guy sat down beside me, staring intently. I turned to find a completely unfamiliar face, and just as. I thought he'd mistaken me for someone else. He blurted out, "I'm the guy with the drone." The pieces instantly clicked in my head. It was him. I thought he was a creep. He scratched his head, grinning. "Can we exchange contacts now?" A month later, school reopened. Dragging my 2 heavy suitcases back to campus, I spotted my friend waiting by the front gates. "Landlin, thank goodness you made it," he cried out, running over to wrap me in a tight, emotional hug. "We actually survived," he choked out. "Thank you so much for the supplies. Everyone on our floor made it." I patted his back gently. "As long as we're okay. Come on, I've already set up your bed in our new dorm. So are you going back to doing food vlogs? Can I crash your next live stream for a bite?" I laughed, shaking my head. Such a foodie. "Sure, you can eat as much as you want. It's on me."